I see already smiling faces, which is really good. And we start, of course, with our online guests. So, shall we start with Japan? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll start with Japan. Hello, Japan.
Hi.
Hi.
Very nice to meet you.
How
Hi.
are you?
How are you?
I'm shouting.
I'm fine.
Sorry. You. How are you?
Yuya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Mr.
Can I introduce
Kikukawa.
myself? Yes.
Yeah.
My name is Yuya Kikukawa, and I'm the CEO and founder of No New Folk Studio Inc.
Yes.
And can I introduce now?
Well, only if you keep it really short.
Okay. Very nice to meet you. And thank you for inviting me.
Yes, well, you can tell a little bit more than that.
Okay. So, yeah, at first, I'm sorry that I couldn't go to Berlin directly today. So I've always loved Europe and really hoping to go to Berlin, but unfortunately, COVID pandemic made it difficult to go. But currently in Japan, the COVID-19 is well under control, and about 500 people infected per day in the country as a whole. So everyone out on the streets, of course, wearing masks, but most daily activities are unrestricted and most shops are still open. But of course, the infection has not stopped, and there are predictions that the pandemic will return in October or November. So there is no relief at all. Anyway, like that.
Yeah. Do you maybe also want to share a little bit about what you're doing?
Okay. So I'm a CEO of Nonifox Studio Inc. and Japanese startup based in Tokyo, and we're developing smartphone. Now, smartphone means basically a combination of the sensor and the shoes that can be linked to smartphone application and analyze users' gait than simply wearing them. And so I studied interface design and interaction design at the graduate school of the Tokyo Metropolitan University. And at that time, I was particularly interested in designing wearable interfaces and at the same time, electrical musical instrument. So I started the project to digitize tap shoes for the tap dancing. Then I created a kind of smart shoes prototype that uses sensors attached to the shoe sole to analyze foot movement and generate music in real time, which became the origin of our current smart shoes.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Thank you so much. Can I show you the product?
No, later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, because that would cost too much time. No, but excellent. Thank you so much. Really happy that you are here. Johanna, could you also tell us a little bit about what you are doing?
Sure. So the most exciting thing about this panel is that I just discovered that Yuya and I are part of the same network, but we don't actually know each other. So I think that says a lot about our organization.
And the network is called? Now, we're not really good PR, but...
Yuya and I we're part of a global network called MistleToe, which was founded by a Japanese founder called Taizo-san. So what MistleToe does, we're a global impact collective. We're different members doing a variety of very different things. So I have nothing to do with shoes. I'm usually based in the Philippines, but I'm currently dialing in from Western Australia because I left due to COVID. The lockdown there has been fairly severe, so yeah, it seemed like a good idea to get out. What I do at MistleToe, or what we do generally, is that we design and implement very interesting projects that don't necessarily have, I guess, don't necessarily have a revenue-generating idea in mind at the very start. So what we're trying to do is to design something that we feel is really interesting, will engage other participants, let that be governments or educational institutions or just entrepreneurs. And we use this as a showcase to stimulate discussion. And as the project develops, usually that is when the business model comes in. So we do this in agriculture, we do this in education, we do this in urban city development. And I am currently working with one of our portfolio companies called Fermata. They're based in Japan, and we're working on our Singapore marketplace launch. We're a marketplace and a community for femtech solution. So femtech means female and technology. It's a range of products related to women's intimate health and sexual well-being. And it's been extremely successful in Japan since the launch. So we've had a wide coverage on national TV and nationwide magazines. And we're currently working on the Singapore launch for this.
Great, what a wonderful introduction. I have so many questions, but first we have to finish our introduction round. So, Farina, could you please also introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm happy to. In person, I'm here. You can touch me.
But we are not allowed to.
Yeah, I know. And I've rushed here as well. So I'm just breathing right now because I came all the way. Berlin is so big, man. Fuck. Like, I don't know, somewhere out west, but far out. Anyway, I'm here now. And what do I usually do if I'm not sitting here? I run a company that does digital therapy for mental health disorders. So with people, like we are pretty much treating people with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and all the other mental health burdens that affect us in our day-to-day lives. And we've developed a digital therapy approach that's guided by psychologists. So we are blending in technology and people to pretty much mainly bridge the gap, because whether you're in Australia, and actually in Australia that exists as well, a similar model, whether you're somewhere else in Europe, the waiting times to see a therapist are several months. And if you need immediate support, that's what we can provide you with.
Yes, and who doesn't during COVID, right? I mean, some situations at home, I would say we all sometimes feel caged in, so I can imagine, but we'll talk about that later on. And just a check question so far, only customers in Germany, or globally already?
Globally, if you can speak German.
Okay. Okay. Aravinth, please.
Testing, yeah. Thanks, Derk. I'm a little bit really sleepy and.
Are you sleepy? Okay, then yeah. Omar, please go ahead. No, I don't want to push you.
Okay, so I think like a lot of you know me here, including Johanna from MistleToe, and I'm one of the ambassadors of the AsiaBerlin event, the initiative. So about me, since we are talking about, because I have several different hats, so I need to once again confirm which talk I am, because after 30 minutes I'm in another talk. This is about the tech for good, right?
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
okay.
just share a little bit of what you're passionate about.
So basically, what do I do is as an interdisciplinarian. So I work in different domains, so art, science, engineering, and sustainability. And in Berlin, mostly what I'm doing, I'm helping startups and the startup co-founders to go from their deep scientific or deep tech ideas to go from idea to research, development, manufacturing, certification, and production. And this is what I do by consulting or engineering hands-on work. At the same time, I have co-founded 7 organizations in the last 11 years in Asia, Europe, and Africa.
Okay, to cut you short, because why? Why do you do all these different things? Because why? What drives you?
What? Okay, we are already in the next, before the introduction, right? Yeah, so, okay, I can tell maybe I'm from Sri Lanka. So I was born and grew up in war zone. So I lived a majority of my life, my teenage in a war zone. And then I ended up a child refugee in another country where there was basically no system of integrating refugees. So 24 years of my life, I lived in suppression and oppression. And then one thing that I understood at the age, very young age, that to survive in a dynamically changing world, you need to know so many different things. It's not just enough to be to software engineer or to electronics engineer. You need to really know different things, whether it's a soft skill or technical skill. So after, since I was 14 years old, I left the country, in another country, and then I started my engineering service business. So in the last 17 years, I have touched different domains and ecosystem because it was giving me a bigger network to fulfill the value that I have established when I was a child in a war zone. So that's why I do so many things, and that's why I would love to also help the people.
And now you are awake. Yes, Omar.
It's already very inspiring to hear all of you talking about your own projects. So yeah, my name is Omar. I'm a medical doctor. I graduated from med school in Morocco and then specialized in public health at Johns Hopkins University in the US. And so I'm working with AMBOSS, which is a startup based here in Berlin. We specialize in medical education, and right now I'm leading the Global Health Initiative, which is a non-for-profit initiative, part of AMBOSS, where we bring medical education to low and middle income countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia.
Okay, so and why didn't you go for the typical career in a hospital or?
Right. That is a big question. Yeah, not many people understand.
Have you found the answer already?
I did. I mean,
Okay, cool.
Not many people understand why, indeed, a doctor wouldn't work at a hospital. But for me, it just made sense because working in public health, I had the feeling that I could have a bigger impact. I could impact millions of people at the same time, and for me, it just made more sense. So that's why I went for it, and then I have a huge interest for sexual and reproductive health, humanitarian health, and so being able to kind of bring all of these together under one umbrella organization made a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah. So trying to tie this all together is impossible, right? So it's not going to happen during this panel. But one thing that struck me most after in the introductions was what Johanna said about helping people before there is any revenue. And what fascinates me about all of the products that you're working on, it's that in the core it is not about like the classical type of generating revenue, and this. You would also do this if it was just your hobby and not even being a business, and maybe in some cases this is still feel like a hobby instead of like a different career path that you could have taken. And I'm wondering, is this something that where you also see kind of a mission to really change something instead of only just going for like maximizing the value for investors and trying to exit as soon as possible, and maybe you could just share something about that journey, how you see this in pan out in the coming years. Yeah, Farina?
Yeah, if I'm really honest, and I'm only recently started saying this because it only recently changed, but we didn't have a business model for the last 2 years. Like, we didn't make money with, like, treating people with mental health disorders also means you often, not always, strategy, and it's different to, for example, when you go and get VC money from the beginning and like you have a lot of more money to spend on certain things and you're driving for an exit within a certain time range or whatever. But it also feels like you're driving something which is a lot more sustainable in a way. And I do believe that it's the same as in your personal life, where if you do what you like and what you're good at, if you're honest with yourself with what you're doing, money comes anyway, is my personal belief. And that's exactly what I see at my company too. Like, you're doing something good, you're being recognized, and a business model will find itself, put it this way, not being naive and saying, yeah, it's somewhere like but it will find itself in the system. And to finish that up, I think there is no contradiction generally between an economic business and a social impact business, because I think the bigger the company gets with what it does, the social impact will get bigger at the same time. So I don't think money making is generally evil.
Yuya, in Japan, is it the same from your perspective, being in Japan?
Sorry, can I ask your question again?
The question is, are you thriving for maximizing your profit, or are other things more important for you? And how do you then in a daily life also handle the obvious costs that you have, especially if you want to develop something technological and have to hire people and so on?
Okay, so mainly our vision is not changing, but actually we did a kind of pivot now from start. So, okay, we have a vision, the sensing fit changing everything. So we are believing that software can change the lifestyle completely, like the smartphones. And then, to be honest, I feel I acted too early about the software market at first, because we started from 2014, and at that time I thought that all the major sports manufacturers would enter the smart shoes for running orientation in next few years, and it would be difficult for startup company to enter the running market because the 2014 the products like Nike Plus were on the market, and the Fitbit and other major products were gaining momentum at the time, and there seems to be a tremendous potential for the wearables. Yeah. So instead of the running shoes the big company do, we try to start from the more niche product by creating more for new concept smart shoes. That we were focusing on the dance and entertainment.
Yeah, really cool, really cool. Johanna, this is obviously something that you advise other companies also on this topic, right? How to stay true to oneself and at the same time still have some kind of business running.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say. Oh, sorry, was that for me or for you? Yeah.
Yeah, for you, Johanna. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have to say one of the challenges. So I generally think I agree with what was said earlier, that there isn't necessarily a distinction, or that there isn't necessarily anything bad about making money and the process of making money. So before joining MistleToe, I used to work for an organization called Endeavor that supports entrepreneurs in emerging markets. Money and the process of making money. So before joining MistleToe, I used to work for an organization called Endeavor that supports entrepreneurs in emerging markets. And a lot of times, because we were a non-profit organization, we were being asked why we weren't helping social enterprises more, and why we were helping companies that were already successful. And in general, the idea is that this is being done because most of the jobs, and particularly in emerging markets, are being generated by SMEs that are able to scale. It's not social enterprises, because the business model isn't necessarily designed to, I guess, to create lots of jobs and to scale very quickly. So in that sense, particularly when you're in an emerging market where basic livelihoods are often missing and people don't have the money to send their children to school, it's important that they just have a regular job. It doesn't necessarily need to be a job that pays them 5 times as much. But having said that, when I joined MistleToe, one of the important considerations we had is that so for one of the education projects that we're running, it's a very creative project. So the idea is that most entrepreneurs are actually individuals that were able to experiment very freely during their childhood years. And it's these kinds of skills that they develop at an early age that help them later on to be able to experiment, to be able to fail, to be able to liaise with others and collaborate, and thereby become very successful. Now, with this kind of model, this makerspace that we set up in Japan, and which was kind of designed as an after-school program, to bring something like this to the Philippines is a huge step, because then the question that I was asking myself is, well, encouraging these children to be creative, and we're trying to prepare them for with 21st century skills. But at the same time, a lot of these children also come from marginalized communities. And in reality, the best job they're going to get, or the best paid job, is likely going to be in a call center dealing with customer service complaints. So it is very tricky to combine the two. And I think like, yeah, when you're, I guess, like designing these very creative projects that we're running, then we now need to think about, well, what is phase 2? What do we do with these children? Like once they graduate from our makerspace, do we have a way to change the economy or to encourage businesses to be prepared for these kinds of graduates?
And by the way, Yuya, we were looking at your product demo video. We see all the time your the dancing shoes. So we are aware that what the product is like now. But keep on. You can do this in a loop because it's a nice background. We see all the time your dancing shoes. So just keep on playing. Yes, very good. But Johanna, I'm wondering. I mean, you could have like such a high-paying whatever job in a corporate with your level of experience and what you've seen so far. Why? Because change starts with one person, right? You also very obviously chosen a certain path. Why did you choose for this path and not another way better paying path?
So originally I set off at university to, I guess I studied international relations and I was going to be a diplomat. And I think if it had been up to my parents, that's where I'd be, like somewhere near the European Commission or in NATO or UNDP. And probably in terms of my paycheck, that would look very different then. But going to the Philippines and working with a lot of entrepreneurs actually made me realize there is a lot of power in entrepreneurship. And there is a lot more that you can affect in the circles around you when you're, I guess, like when you're starting your own business. So the challenges that I saw by just observing a lot of the, I guess, the UN personnel is that there is a lot of corruption in the system. There's a lot of money getting wasted. And if you really want to make a difference, there are few better ways than just starting a business and creating jobs for other people. Now, my challenge has been that I've always been interested in a variety of different things. And so when I joined MistleToe, the idea was that hopefully I'll find that one thing, like Yuya, that I really want to focus on. And so when I guess like one of the conclusions I've come to this year is that I would really like to do something that involves working with more women. So before I've done some research on female entrepreneurs, on why such few like women-founded businesses are being invested in. I've also been interested in more products for women, but the challenge is in countries like the Philippines or generally in Southeast Asia outside of Singapore, a lot of these products that are really interesting are just not affordable for the market yet. So right now, helping out Fermata is a way for me to get closer to where I want to be in terms of starting my own business. But at the same time, I guess trying to figure out how we can drive down the price point for a lot of the products that we're selling that are now available in Japan and in Singapore.
Yeah. So you guys here on stage, how do you see this entrepreneurial path for you in the coming years and how to tackle like the practical problems of getting enough money to realize the dreams that you have?
Yeah, I think for us, we're so I'm working with AMBOSS, but we have this new initiative that is nonprofit, right? And so it goes back to what you asked before: that is it all for money at the end? And I think at some point, like doing this adventure with AMBOSS for 10 years now, we realized at some point that it doesn't matter for us whether people can actually pay for a product. We were driven by our mission, that is that we believe that all healthcare professionals should have this up-to-date medical information that would guide their clinical decision making. And so we were always contacted by either medical students or medical professionals from especially low and middle income countries asking us to provide them access for free to our resource because they needed it. And then they were sharing some stories with us about how they were able to actually help the lives of their patients with that. And so for us, that is really what made us happy. And so that's why we decided to launch this global health initiative to be able to support either universities or hospitals or individuals in low and middle income countries with access to that information, so that at the end of the day, it still goes in line with our mission, that is that we want to support them and improve the healthcare in these countries.
Yeah, but you never had a problem of not having enough funds.
I mean, right now with the Global Health Initiative, we're just starting like this year. So at the moment, we're funded, well, through AMBOSS, right? But our aim is to have it non-for-profit, meaning that we would not want to make those countries pay for our product, but we would want to eventually apply for grants or to be able to get the funds to get this thing going.
Yeah. Could you share some experience on, yeah, the question is pretty obvious. How do you do it? Because, I mean, you also want to have a super big impact, of course. And to have this impact, you need people, but you also need technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the entrepreneurship is 17 years old. I started my engineering service business at the age of 14. As I said, to answer this question, why I've been doing a lot, because living in a suppressive environment, I was not given access to information and opportunities. When the gates opened, I wanted to do everything. And so being a refugee in the other country, I started my engineering service business primarily because of peer pressure as well, because I was not allowed to go to school, being a refugee there. Somehow entered the school, and I knew a lot of things than the other privileged kids. And then I started my business, and then no one was not really understanding, okay, he's doing. So this is like, to show off to the other kids that I have an engineering service business. I have clients from Canada and Australia and Russia at the age of 14. And so that's gradually, it was, I would say it's a child business. So every time someone asks how much would it cost, I would say like, $200, and it's actually the actual estimation. The work would be something like they would sell it to someone, to the end customer, for $100,000 or something like that. Because I was a child, I didn't have any guidance on that. And then later, to answer this question again properly, entering. So after that, I worked in corporates. To answer this question, what was the transition? What was the moment? After finishing my studies, I started with my first corporate job. 700,000 employees, 400,000 engineers. You don't see that scale here in Europe and in Germany. Worked there in big projects, and one day I realized that I need to be an entrepreneur again, because one day I really wanted an envelope. So I have to raise a ticket. It goes all the way up to the stationery ministry of the corporate, and they said your envelope is approved. Please collect it next day from the stationery shop. I mean, there's 700,000 employees. They have to do that. Otherwise, people will take all the envelope home, So that was the moment I said, okay, what kind of impact are we creating in these huge corporates? And then I started my EdTech startup at 11 years ago in 2009 for doctors. It still exists in China and India. And to tell more about the money was always it will be always a problem if it's a for-profit company. But amongst 7 organizations that I co-founded in Asia, Europe, and Africa, 4 of them are social enterprises. As Johanna said, as you said, we just grew into that place where we were able to make that money to balance our social mission and the business venture. And that's what I've been doing for 17 years.
Yeah, very interesting. So I hear you all complain, yes, but Derk, the title of this panel is Social Engagement in Times of COVID-19. Oh, no, that's the next panel. Tech for Good, Innovation Meets Wellbeing. And we haven't talked about tech and well-being yet. So this is always very hard for me to stay on topic because I'm so interested in the personal stories, and I hope that we can now connect the topic actually to the personal stories. So how do you think that tech, how will tech change the well-being of the people on this planet? What role does technology, or will it have? And we will start, of course, with people who are virtually present here. Yuya, you're still there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little bit boring so far, you think?
No.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
listening.
Yeah, you have to be honest. No. So what role do you think tech will play in well-being of the people around the globe?
Okay, at first, maybe I should introduce our current product, because now we pivot, and from since 2018, we start developing the gait analysis smart shoes called Orphetrack, and so this is not for dancing and entertainment. This analyzes each step you take as you wear it, and capture the variety of gait analysis data such as speed, stride height, pronation, and landing impact, and more. So the sensors built in the sole send in real-time data to the smartphone and allowing user to run about the good running form from voice feedbacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think sorry. Yeah, of course, we're fearing that. Sorry, just a moment, please.
You're getting a call or something happening?
Yeah, yeah.
But Yuya, we immediately understand that if you are enjoying a walk, or if you can improve the way how you walk, that would help a lot of people, of course, because having both feet on the ground.
Yeah, there are the very strong correlation between the step and the health conditions. So now we are developing kind of algorithm to detect users' health situation, and now we are doing joint research with some medical laboratory in Japanese famous universities. So now we're thinking the fun for walk or run is a very good for health and tech for good.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense, right? If you ever have taken a massage, and you know that when they start with the feet, then you know how you pretty much feel after a short while. So yeah, really cool. So Johanna, tech and well-being, what's your idea on that?
I guess I'll give you two answers. So one of them is from an emerging market perspective. I mean, access to technology often means access to services that previously were unaffordable or just unavailable. So what we see a lot in the Philippines is, I guess, particularly in the healthcare space now with COVID, that apps and certain startups, I believe one of them might actually be speaking here at the summit as well, have helped people to get connected to nurses, or to doctors, and all of a sudden, like it's possible to do this virtually, whereas like before that just wasn't the case. Then my second, and I guess like the same is happening in the education space as well. So unfortunately, a lot of schools in countries
like Germany,
that just don't have, like
I
don't know how digital
internet.
the schools in Germany are by now.
Emerging market here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe as digital as the Japanese government. Yeah.
Definitely not, no.
So a lot of schools are just unable to provide quality education. And then the question is, well, if you have an extremely low bar, why don't you use a new product where there's only slight risk to actually make things worse than they already were? So that's one answer. The second one is with regards to Fermata, that a lot of products that we sell are actually designed to, I guess, like to fundamentally improve the well-being of women. So one of the companies that we work with, or whose products we sell, for instance, it's a vibrator that women can connect via Bluetooth with an app on the phone, and it can actually monitor their own orgasms. Now, the question is whether that is something you necessarily want to monitor, obviously. But the whole idea and the engineering behind it is that women's orgasms fundamentally differ depending on the time of day, depending on whether it is with a partner or not, depending on how much caffeine you have in your system. And a lot of this data is just currently not available because there's been such little research on this topic. And so what the founders of this particular product have done is to partner up with a university, and they're generating a huge data set that you can opt in, so you don't have to. You can opt in, and this will be the largest sample of women's orgasms that has ever been conducted. And so similar things we see in other products around fertility that we're selling, and the hope is really to, I guess, like to provide more data on women's health and help these women have access to this.
It's a very concrete example, to say the least. Thank you for sharing. So for you, technology, because so far I haven't really heard a technological component in what you've so far said, but yeah, I would be interested to what your take on that is.
Right. So just to give a quick picture, AMBOSS has an online platform, app where medical professionals can access medical information. We write all the information, everything is produced in-house. We have over 80 full-time physicians working at AMBOSS. So that's what we provide. And then Tech for Good, from our side, there are two sides, I would say. First is that we bridge the gap regarding the lack of resources, of up-to-date medical resources, especially in low-middle income countries. And then on the other hand, there is a high demand for competent healthcare professionals. And so through medical information, up-to-date information, we're able to build their capacities and skills, and which leads eventually to better trained healthcare professionals. Now, the only thing is that as public health professionals, we always think about how to avoid doing harm, even unintentional harm through our solutions. And there's always unintentional harm with any solution, and we always have to keep that in mind and think about how can we actually avoid that from happening. From our side, I think the fact that we provide online or medical information, one can think that information also has to be contextualized to the local country, local context. It has to be specific to some local guidelines, and the fact that we provide, for instance, now information that is more, let's say, worldwide available, or more so not necessarily specific to the context, can eventually lead to an unintentional harm. So these are like things that we always try to keep in mind, and we always try to involve communities, local communities, in the design of any solution that we provide, so as to avoid any potential harm that could be done.
Yes, but the role of technology in this is that you provide then the access to the platform.
Right. Through the platform or mobile app. The mobile app is available online and offline, which is of great advantage in some remote areas as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, in your case, it's super obvious, of course, huh? that you don't have to go to a therapist anymore. You can just access somebody through the app. Because how does it work exactly? Do you plan a call, or there's actually a person then in the app giving you consulting?
You can actually choose. So it's a blended learning approach, right? Like, so you have an online course where you learn actual therapeutic content over 12 weeks, exercises, text, videos, week by week. It's different modules individualized to your situation. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you want to, and this is not mandatory, you can either talk to somebody over the phone with video component or just messaging. And now comes the interesting part. I thought the majority of people actually want to see someone. Not necessarily. 80% of the people actually want to just talk over the phone. And this I find so interesting, because maybe this is German specific, I have no clue. I can't tell, because we're only live in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland,
yes,
which is all Western. But the barrier seems to be still the barrier of showing your face to even somebody via video, A, B, talking like, this is typical Berlin, this thing, like this, rather than like that, is obviously easier as well, in terms of like you can be anywhere. So I guess that's a factor there. But to answer your question, yes, for us it's really obvious, but if I would answer the questions like why are digital tools coming in and how they're affecting the healthcare market as such, yeah, it's huge in the end.
Yeah.
In our case, you can also take the AMBOSS case there. I think it changes the role of the doctor and it makes like things often a lot more efficient for me, like from what I see from like all the healthcare tools I see out there. It can also affect the quality, which I think is right what you guys are doing. And all from all my doctor friends, I hear that quality there is actually a thing. And accessibility, that's what we just
Johanna.
heard, yeah, from Johanna. And I think combining these three factors, the potential lever that digitalization can have on healthcare is huge.
But how far would you take it? An interesting case would be, of course, to implant a chip or a sensor into a person's body. And once they give out a hormone that they don't feel that well mentally.
Black Mirror.
For example, yeah. What would that be something you would consider at selfapy?
Oh my God. Like, I cannot watch Black Mirror because I always get nightmares. This truth story. Definitely, like if I was to answer this question, definitely not. If you'd ask our CTO, he might say yes. But luckily, I can have a say on that one. I mean, in the end of the day, yeah, you can ask yourself, like, what can you actually automate? Like the measurements you can take, and I actually know a Swiss company that is doing something like this. They are trying to build in a thingy into your ear. They're developing that. I'm not a big, like, I don't know much about medtech, so I'm trying to explain it in dummy terms. Implant something into your ear that measures certain things in your body, and then via the tool in your ear gives you mental advice, like a psychotherapist in your ear, on like what your thought patterns should go towards. And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, like my monkey mind is already so big anyway. If I have another one in my ear, I'm gonna shoot myself at nighttime. Like, wow.
And then it turns out that this is powered by Facebook.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So there are certain
circle,
there are certain limits here.
For me, definitely, because like, I mean, I'm not even using Instagram, so like, I think I'm not the typical tech-savvy person. I think it will be taken further, but I think there will also be limitations in Germany anyway, with like data security, medical product certifications, and all that stuff. Like the market is quite regulated. But what I'm hoping for is that it's just a little bit more patient-oriented, and that's I think what's happening.
Yeah, I think maybe coming back from the scientific and engineering side, this is there are hundreds of thousands of metabolic reactions happening in the body, and to find out one thing is like, you know, even if you think that this is going to chip that's going to do, it's going to be pretty difficult. But maybe like to answer a few of the innovations that aligns to the topic, in the last 5 years I have trained and mentored more than 120 deep tech startups. Some of them are very successful. I would just mention some of the healthcare and med tech here, which I had also hands-on and also consulting. So one of the recent ones that I supported is there are 1 trillion microbiomes in your gut. And there are 1,000 different versions of those microbacteria or like different microorganisms in your gut. And gut is the second brain of the body. But we eat a lot of crap and trash, and we kill all these things.
Not today, not on the AsiaBerlin summit.
Yes, we had that jackfruit burger today, so it's a good one.
But in general, there's a McDonald's here next door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when
don't go there.
So when these things they die, you either take probiotic, but again, probiotic is again a microorganism. They need food. So there is a thing called prebiotic. It's the food for the probiotic that you have to take. But the colon, when you take from this way, it gets destroyed. You know, it's like stomach is super acidic and then all the condition. So there's one of the ancient treatment for any kind of a problem in the gut. Thousands of years existed in China, but people feel a little bit bad about it. It's called fecal transplantation. That means you take a poop of a healthy person and you eat it if you have a gut problem. It just is the only medical treatment that works 100% for sure. But this startup, what it did, okay, you cannot go and sell a poop in a bottle, right? People will not eat it. And so what they did, they identified some of the good microbes and culture them, put it in a capsule. Again, you cannot eat it. You have to go the other way around, 10 centimeters up. And I helped them also to get their first batch done as a Berlin-based startup. So when you go for a little bit on another example I would love to give, this is 2-3 years ago, I worked on this. Last year I was speaking at AsiaBerlin Summit about the advanced material innovation with the medtech and healthcare. So this is, in Germany itself, there are 13,000 care homes and 980,000 elderly citizens wearing adult diapers, so the incontinence diaper. And the problem here is we have one nurse for 50 elderly citizens in Germany, and nurse is super, stressed, and the citizens and the patients, they know it's leaking, it's about their dignity, it's about their infection rate. So the project started by solving this problem. So what if you have a smart diaper which can dynamically give the dynamic allocation to the nurses? But again, we are in Germany, right? We are not in another country where there are things can be innovation. That's the tech for good, yeah? What should we consider when we are building a technology? It's very careful here. So we had 4 criteria. First, it should be sustainable. If you're going to build a diaper with fancy rigid electronics, when we throw the diaper, what happens? Is it sustainable? We need 2 billion diapers a year in Germany itself. Adult diaper, I'm talking. Second thing, Germany has a super rigid infrastructure. No one is going to change the existing infrastructure in the healthcare or in the manufacturer if you're going to bring in a new diaper. Third thing, it should be Germany, and again, our question, even though we are tech pioneers, we are slow on technology adoption. If I take a diaper with the LED light to a care home, they will scream, at this. So it should be invisible.
But Yuya has a solution for this, because he has all kinds of colors and cool things to make them adapt to this.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's 4 o'clock, so officially it's a break.
Break.
And if you want to have a break, you can have a break, but we will just continue the conversation
finish
so
it,
that you know. We have half an hour more. I mean, I like it. Do you have time? Yeah, we can just keep on talking.
So basically, we have to. We also have the ambassadors meeting, so I'll finish. So what we basically did, we have actually took a research from again traditional German research institution. They have a lot of breakthrough, but it's not productized. Yeah. We found a material, an advanced material. It's a variant of polyelectrolyte. We designed the whole sensor and printed on an 18 micrometer substrate. That means a paper 20 times thinner than a paper. The whole electronics is a biodegradable electronics, which doesn't have any rigid electronics, which goes seamless inside the existing diaper in one of the 20 plies. And then the people wear it, they don't know there is actually a sensor inside the diaper, which is you can throw. It contains the same material as the diaper. And it can do 2 things. First, it can detect which part of the diaper is going to leak so that it can tell, okay, in 2 hours, this diaper is going to be full, just change. Second thing, it uses a technology called impedance spectroscopy, where you can also identify material in the urine and poo. So we could predict a lot of things from that's coming out. So these are the hands-on things, and we have I think in the last few years more than 5,000 users. A clinical trial have been done. It's still in the clinical trial, and if that scales up, 2 billion diapers a year just in Germany. Where this will be useful, again, all population countries. If it's not going to be useful for India or Asian countries where parents have been taken care by their kids, it's going to be useful for the countries like Korea, Japan, and Germany, all population where there are no kids to take care of the parents. So this is what I see as Berlin has these kind of diverse innovation to create the well-being for people. And the environment. We have to think about environment in every place. I have seen a lot of smart diaper companies. They have a fully strapped electronics diaper, which is going to create so much of mess in the environment, right? yeah, like I have many more examples I can go on for and ever, like, you know, but these are the things.
Yeah, so Farina just told me that she has to leave in 50 minutes. So then, you know, if she leaves, then we all leave.
Yeah,
because
we also have the
Sorry.
ambassador
Scusi.
meeting, so we have to leave.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more examples from Aravinth, you can also stay, because in 30 minutes after the break, he will be in another panel and talking about other innovative approaches. So in that regard, Yuya, is there something you'd like to share with us? Something you haven't mentioned still for us here?
Yeah, thank you for the time. Anyway, thank you for the precious time. And as a Tokyo-based startup, now we are wondering how we can expand into the European market, especially in Berlin.
Yeah.
That in our case, we have 3 things to export: the shoes, computers, and applications. So it is very complicated. So we are now looking for kind of partners who knows how to sell such a wearable products and marketing for these products. So if there are people who are interested in working with us, please contact me.
Okay, super good. Yeah, to know. What could we help already? What kind of partners? Maybe you have. What kind of partners do you think Yuya should look at? Healthcare more, or like? No.
If I could make a choice, I would say the healthcare market. I was just talking with somebody about that. I think is extremely appealing generally, because you're helping people, but it takes years to actually get your foot onto the ground, and you need local expertise, otherwise impossible. So I would say I would not dig into healthcare as a first step. I'd rather go with a lifestyle product, which he has too. Partner up with like a great distribution partner, get a good PR and marketing agency on board, and like run it that way. I think for that you also need local presence. That's the thing. You need a local partner.
Yeah, but if you say lifestyle, that could also still be in many directions, of course.
But I mean the dancing product.
Yeah,
I would go with the dancing product.
Oh, you won't do the algorithm of the sensor in the shoe in general. You would go for the dancing shoe.
No, but the dancing shoe has some like parts of the technology from my rookie technology knowledge. Don't get me wrong, Julian, of what he's doing with the alternative shoe as well. So I would launch with lifestyle, and I would then go into healthcare as the second step. Germany is radically changing in healthcare right now, with the new health care law came into place 1st of January. Yeah. But that means a whole lot of ticks and certifications that you need. Far too complicated, wouldn't do that. Not as a first step.
Okay. So distribution partner in Europe, and then work on the marketing and the branding for the dancing shoe, Yuya. Does that sound like a good strategy?
Yeah, I think so. There's so many insights. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you have an idea for Yuya, what he could do, or what are your ideas?
I agree with Farina, and I think there is definitely still a potential for healthcare by the use of the sensors. It could be used in many ways. It could be just as easy as the health of the feet, but it could be anything in general. But then, as you said, it might be difficult to enter that market. But it doesn't also necessarily have to be in Germany. It could be in Japan, for instance, where you might know the healthcare market better. So what I'm saying is there is definitely potential.
Yes. Yeah, other markets in Europe who are maybe like a little bit more open to technology in general, to incorporate it into their daily life. But if there are people now here who could maybe help Yuya, then he is also Umbrella in a networking app, and also the organization, of course, knows how to reach him. So, yes. Thank you so much, Yuya, for your time so far. Yeah, great visualizations, great backgrounds, best wallpapers we've had so far today. Really colorful to have you on board. And Johanna, would you have what is there something you need where we can? Yeah, how can we help you best?
Sure. For us, it goes the other way around. So we're a marketplace at Fermata. And so right now on the marketplace, we're still fairly early stage because, as I mentioned previously, we we're highly specialized. We do test all of the products that we're selling. We're not a Lazada or a Shopee or an Amazon where you can buy any product, but we're a trusted source, and we need to make sure we maintain that brand. So we're very cautious in what kinds of innovations we put on the marketplace. Having said that, right now, we're highly focused on products that have come from Korea or from Japan. We have had contact with a few US brands as well. Unfortunately, not that much from Europe, and especially not from Germany. And we would love to see more femtech brands like from Germany that are interested in the Asian market, either in Southeast Asia, where we're launching in Singapore, or in Japan, to approach us. So a lot of, I guess, Western startups have a hard time thinking about how to enter the Japanese market because there are language barriers and cultural barriers. We help with both those things. So we provide those services. So we're essentially making it easier. And yeah, if any of you know any companies or entrepreneurs that might be interested,
Farina knows those companies, yes.
Great.
You already you have been in contact already, or?
No, but Johanna can reach out to me. Are you German?
Okay.
Are you German? Johanna,
Yep,
are you German?
bin ich.
Ja,
Yep.
wollte ich doch sagen. Ja, okay. Ja. Ja.
No, she
I mean,
doesn't have
Johanna
that.
is such a German name, and like, I mean,
Yeah, and then Wiese. My God, how
Yeah.
German can it be being at Spielfeld here? Like, I mean, how German can
no,
we
I
be?
kind of detected
Yes.
the German vibes. I was like, yeah, okay.
Oh, I did not at all. Yeah, yeah. You also detected German vibes? No, not really. Okay.
I did.
Yeah, but I've one tip, maybe like Femna Health here from Berlin. You know that company, Maxi Mathiesen? Okay. Now that's a company that I like. That could be also part. Yeah. Okay. How can we help you? Because Farina doesn't need any help, but maybe you need any help.
I mean,
so
from
not
our
true.
side, I think it's kind of two sides. If there are any country officials or university officials who are interested in looking into their medical education system and need support in strengthening their medical curricula, that's definitely something that we can help with. So please get in touch with me. But also on the other hand, if there are any donors in general who are also interested in supporting our activities, our nonprofit activities in low and middle income countries, I think that's something that could be very interesting because we receive we receive really a lot of requests from different countries from literally all around the world who need access to these resources, yet our capacity is limited at this point of time, so we could definitely use that.
Okay.
And Farina doesn't need anything.
This is such bullshit. I probably need the most. But mostly right now, besides a little bit more calming down, because it's a hassle for us right now with a new law coming in. It's a huge opportunity, but it creates a lot of like workload. It ranges from data security product stuff. Long story short, we're looking
because
for
the entrance barrier it has lowered
significantly by the fact that it's actually, I would say, our biggest milestone that from November onwards, every doctor in Germany can prescribe selfapy for zero money. Yeah. So meaning everybody can use it for free. Huge. Yeah. Means also we have a lot of like work attached to it. Like we have to start doctor sales, and like I'm sitting there going like, holy moly, like where do I start? Long story short, we're looking for a lot of stuff. So like whether it's sales, whether it's product support, actually the marketing team as well. So if anybody is interested in a new opportunity, have a look at our career site. It's a really cool mission.
Yeah, and your co-founder Nora is also really cool. Great founder team.
We're only chicks. We're 3 girls, 3 co-founder girls. This is so cool.
Is that something you can say still, like chicks? I would never dare to say this.
I am one, so I can say it. I think if you would
can
say it,
yourself.
it's not good.
Yeah, but okay, no. Other debates another time.
Women.
Yes, and now we have to remember that Rainer Zeider, the big guy behind this conference, yesterday told us all that his favorite part of the conference are always the breaks. So at least we should have a little bit of a break. You also have to go.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for participating. I hope
Thank
you and the
you.
audience liked our panel. Thank you so much for being here. Big applause for everybody.